Welcome back to Wealth Within Reach. I'm your host, Erica Brown, and today this is a quick episode for you real estate investors, strictly about real estate investing tips and strategies. You are going to want to get your pen and your paper and jot down some quick notes as I'm talking about the 5 mistakes I have made while building my 6-figure real estate portfolio. All right, let's go. All right, guys. So you hear me talking about how right now my portfolio net worth is around 5 million. And all of that sounds amazing. And it is. I'm telling you, it's a good thing. I'm proud of that. But all the while, it was really hard to get to that 5 million. I've made so many mistakes along the way that I did not have to make if I had a me to tell me to avoid the mistakes. And so because I care so much about you guys and because y'all are my day ones, I don't want y'all to make the same mistakes I did. So today I'm going to share with you 5 mistakes I've made and how to avoid them. All right, guys, so let's jump into number 1. Number 1 is I waited way too long to ask for help. Way too long to ask for help. And I still do this sometimes, and I have to catch myself and be like, okay, Erica, why are you doing that? And you know what it is. It's like when you have a problem, whether that problem is, I don't have money to buy my first investment property. Literally, it happens all the time. But for me, recently, I started the top of the year, and I had 19 units I needed to fill. I had 19 vacancies for my apartments and other properties that I needed to fill, and I was burnt out, overloaded, running a property management company on my own, and I was just trying to figure out how do I overcome this huge obstacle that I'm having, okay? And I waited way too long to ask for help. So finally, when I went to my business partner, I gave him an update on what was happening, and basically it was just like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. What do we need to do to fix it? I got the help I needed. For me, that help was to actually hire a third-party property manager to manage my properties. For me, my love is coaching Black and brown people, helping y'all figure out how to overcome your limiting beliefs, how to find the money, how to finance the property, how to pick a market. I love doing, I could do that in my sleep. What's not my love is answering property management questions. It is trying to figure out why this toilet leaking. It is trying to figure out, how to approve this tenant for this application. That's not my love. One of my biggest mistakes that I don't want you to make is holding on to things that you know you need to delegate and let go. The quicker that you can recognize that you probably don't like, that this is not with your strength, and whatever your problem is does not align with what you naturally are good at, and the quicker you can bring on an expert to do it for you, to manage the process for you, the better. And I don't know what it is. Sometimes we can feel like, oh, well, I'll figure it out, I'll do it myself, or I can't trust someone else to do it. Honestly, now I end the year, all of my properties are fully occupied. They're all making money. And it was me who was actually costing me money because I'm not an expert. I'm an amateur. And I was trying to act like I'm an expert when I really should have contacted the experts to solve the real problem. So number 1, don't wait too long to hire the experts. All right, guys, you ready for the next one? Number 2, taking on more projects before you actually have the systems to handle them. This was a big one. For the longest time, I wanted to get into multifamily investing. I would just see the number, a big number, and I would just be afraid. I wouldn't even know what the cash flow would be. I wouldn't even know what the income potential would be. I would just see that big number and I'll be like, not doing it. And so finally I went to a conference, I got inspired, and I pulled the trigger. And guess what? I bought that 20-unit multifamily apartments, and I was so excited. But what I did not plan for is I did not have the systems in place to manage 20 more units at one time. So that was a huge deal that I did not plan for because I didn't have someone holding my hand, helping me figure out that I needed certain systems in place in order for it to run efficiently. So oftentimes we are impressed by the new and shiny. We want to go after the new and shiny before we actually have finished this project we have here. And so my suggestion to you is the value of focus. Okay? It's the value of focus. This is actually why I don't prefer one-on-one kind of call coaching versus like an actual mastermind program, because one-on-one coaching is very reactive. It's very, I have a question that because I have a problem, can you help me? And that's what I was facing with my mentor. It was, okay, I have this problem, can you help me? I have this problem, can you help me? It's very reactive. But because I'm not asking him questions that I haven't quite yet encountered yet, he doesn't know to give me the answer. That's the difference between being involved in like a actual formal mastermind program where there's like a program, there's resources, there's a framework. It covers things and it helps you to actually ask questions that you didn't even know you needed to ask. And so being able to be involved in something like that has actually helped me to develop the systems so that I can focus, finish one project at a time, move on to the next one. So that project could be making money to fund this other project versus me just putting money out there, okay? So that's my second tip. Okay, guys, did you hear the news? I am giving away a fully turnkey house. Yes, you heard that correct. I am giving away a fully renovated house at the Owning It and Living It experience. You gotta be in the room though to win the house. It is November 1st through 3rd at the Intercontinental Hotel in Buckhead. Go to experience.owningitandlivingit.com to grab your ticket today before the prices go up. I'll see you in November. My number 3 biggest mistake I've made building my 6-figure real estate portfolio is not running my numbers and scenarios by other investors to see where the gaps were. Okay, again, anytime you're doing something new, it's gonna be uncomfortable and you're probably gonna miss some things. And when I first bought my 20-unit apartment complex, one of the biggest things that I missed starting off was that each building actually doesn't have individual water meters. Each building only has one water meter. So it's basically 5 quadruplex in one setting. And so 5 quads equals 20 units. And each quad has one water meter. So the previous landlord was paying all of the water bill and they were actually taking that out of the expenses. But they actually did not charge the tenants the water. So when I first underwrote the deal when we were buying the apartment complex, I missed the former seller were actually paying all the water bills. So that was something that unless you've actually been through it before, you would know, okay, cool, I need to put that into my expenses, or I need to make sure I bill that back to the tenants so that that doesn't, impact my bottom line. And you may say, oh, okay, that's not a lot of money. But it can be. If you have a property, your property is making $1,000 a month in rent and your mortgage is $700, and then all of a sudden, so that's a $300, difference. And then when you factor in all of your expenses, like your property management fees, utilities, landscaping, you could be in the negative if you don't consider those small expenses because they all add up. So that's a big newbie investor mistake. So what I did to avoid that is I trust the experts now. With me, I'm an expert at identifying the markets. I'm an expert at acquisitions and structuring the deal and figuring out the financing. Now what I've done to streamline that is I hired a actual fractional a CFO or chief financial officer who loves spreadsheets. She loves spreadsheets. She loves figuring things out. She loves seeing the problem on paper and make sure it financially makes sense. So what I do is I say, okay, I'm interested in this property. Let me give her all the information and she runs the numbers for me. Especially as you get into the bigger multifamily properties, it gets super complicated. It's way more complicated than just buying one single family house. You may feel like, oh man, fractional CFO. That sounds super expensive. You can hire them as low as 1 hour a week or less. Okay, you can find them on Upwork, Fiverr, all sorts of websites. You can actually hire someone to run the numbers for you if that's something that intimidates you. All right, number 4 tip, operating in roles that don't align with my strengths. I am not like your other financial real estate guru who is gonna lead with profit first. I'm gonna lead with people over profit, okay? So I'm gonna lead with, what do you wanna do? What type of dream do you wanna have with your life? And then we're gonna reverse engineer what type of real estate strategy works for you. I've done it all from Airbnb to midterm to short term to commercial to all the things. And one thing I realized is that it's important to make sure that your rental strategy aligns with the season of life that you're in. Because there have been so many times where I've just been, focused on, okay, well, this property has been operating as an Airbnb, or this property has been operating like XYZ. And because it's been doing that, I'm just gonna continue to have it operate that way, even though I'm not in the season where I want to be hospitable in that way, or I want to give the extra time to take care of that. One of my biggest mistakes has been operating in that place for too long, okay? It's really not having those folks around me, which I have now, that can speak into my life, those truth tellers, those advice givers, to say like, hey, Erica, I think you should consider doing this and this instead of doing that. For a long, long time, I was out here operating isolation by myself, and that really made it really difficult to see my blind spots. So the biggest thing is really trying to not operate in silos, not trying to operate and do things too long that you shouldn't, that you really, your strengths and your seasons of lives don't align with, because you end up being frustrated and burnt out, and you look back and you're like, why? Well, because you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. If I'm in a season where I have 3 young kids and I'm running around and I'm, and my husband's traveling a lot, it doesn't make sense for me to be the cleaner for my Airbnbs. Like, you know what I'm saying? So having that support team around you that can speak into your life and that can give you that truth telling, that advice giving, can really help you to streamline that. And so I'm super grateful that I have that now with my community. Number 5, not investing in my own self to the level of transformation that I desire. This is a big one. I'm gonna talk to those of you who are like me. Y'all are self-starters, y'all are self-motivated. Don't nobody have to wake you up and tell you how to do something. You ambitious and you're achievers. And you're like, oh, I got this. I don't need help. I don't need to ask anybody. I'm good. That was me for a really, really long time. I was just thinking about this the other day. I thought, okay, cool. Yeah, I built this, portfolio, this $5 million portfolio. Man, yeah, I did that. Like, yeah, it was hard, but I did that. But that was one of my biggest mistakes. Like, yes, I did it. And yes, I've gotten here. And it really wasn't until I actually invested, I put my money where my mouth was, because I got to a place where I was stuck. I can only, with my knowledge and with my level of exposure, take myself to a certain place, to a certain limit. I hit my own glass ceiling. I only got myself as far as I could, and I was stuck. And I couldn't figure out how to get unstuck. And so even us high achievers, self-starters, I got this YouTube University people also need to invest in the level of transformation that we desire. And it wasn't until I actually paid to work with someone, paid to have a coach, until I was like, oh, wow. Because I remember a few years ago, I was hovering around, my net worth was around $735,000. And yes, I had a good amount of money in real estate and investments, but I was still really struggling. I still really didn't have a lot of access to cash. I was still having to put down all my money to buy properties on my own. And I was really, really trying to get to that $1 million mark. And it wasn't until I decided to invest in an actual program to hire a coach to help me learn how to grow my business. And then in less than 1 year, I was able to get to the $1 million mark. So I decided, yes, it was a big investment. It was a $20,000 investment at the time. Yes, it was a big investment, and it was scary not to put it on a credit card. I'm just telling you, being honest. I had to put it on a credit card and pay it and figure out a way to pay it off. But that showed myself, oh yeah, you're serious about what you're committing to. That made me show up, and that made me want to get my money's worth. you know? And so I was able to use that program to help me get to that $1 million mark. And now let me struggle with something for 2 seconds. I'm like, who I need to pay to help me to figure out how to do this? Okay. I have drank the Kool-Aid of hiring the experts and the people, because guess what? I saved so much time. I saved so much money not making all these mistakes trying to figure it out. And then I could just go and chill and sip my latte and be in Europe, okay? While somebody else can take care of it for you. So once you get on it, you go. But I really feel like that held me back. So now I think about it. Yes, I got here, but man, let's think about the hardships that came from that. Let's think about the marriage problems because I was working too much. Let's think about all the times away from my kids because I was doing too much. Let's think about, all the money I wasted because I was too scared to pull the trigger and invest in someone. Let's talk about that hard part, right? And so I want to encourage you. I don't want you to repeat the same mistakes that I had to. I had to work on, I had to do therapy, I had to do mindset work to get to the place to pull the trigger. But I absolutely feel like if I had done it sooner, I probably would have like a $10 million portfolio by now. Not that that's the goal. It just shows you how much time and money I wasted just, being in my mind and being in my head and being all in my ego, honestly, is what it is. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you had a big takeaway from this episode, be sure to DM me on Instagram and let me know what your big takeaway was. I'll see you on the next episode of Wealth Within Reach.